Okay, tonight is Mosiah chapter 22.
And now it came to pass that Ammon and King Limhi began to consult with the people how they should deliver themselves out of bondage. And even they did cause that all the people should gather themselves together, and this they did that they might have the voice of the people concerning the matter. And it came to pass that they could find no way to deliver themselves out of bondage, except they were to take their women and children, and their flocks, and their herds, and their tents, and depart into the wilderness. For the Lamanites being so numerous, it was impossible for the people of Limhi to contend with them, thinking to deliver themselves out of bondage by the sword.
Right, so they're picking up where we left off with the last chapter, that they're talking about how they might free themselves from bondage. Right now, in the first verse, it says that they wanted to have the voice of the people concerning the matter. Of the vote, basically, put their vote in as to what they think would be the best way to go about this. So I guess they were probably presenting a couple of different scenarios if they had them, and said, well, we need the voice of the people, we need everybody to kind of weigh in on this and give their vote as to what they think we should do, because it's going to affect everybody, right? If we go and take a chance here, I mean, I guess they didn't feel, they wanted to make that decision on behalf of everybody, and so they wanted to hear what other ones wanted to say as well, and what they felt they should do. Okay, so anytime you see the voice of the people, that's what that is. That's the vote. That's how you determine the voice of the people. Okay, so, but unfortunately, as you're seeing here in verse 2, it says that, they're not looking at too many good options, right? We could try to get into the wilderness, but maybe actually the guards are there, so you got to get past the guards. We can't fight them, right? And you remember what happened last week, right? Or in the last chapter, okay, they tried to take them on, in fighting, and they got beat like 3 times in a row, and so a lot of their men got killed. So they even had now fewer men than they did at the start, and so now there are lots of widows and people without fathers and so forth because they tried to fight, so that didn't work out too good. So they said that's not going to work. So we've got to come up with another way to do this. Right.
Now it came to pass that Gideon went forth and stood before the king, and said unto him, Now, O king, thou hast hitherto hearkened unto my words many times, when we have been contending with our brethren the Lamanites. And now, O king, if thou hast not found me to be an unprofitable servant, or if thou hast hitherto listened to my words in any degree, and they have been of service to thee, even so I desire that thou wouldst listen to my words at this time, and I will be thy servant, and deliver this people out of bondage.
So Gideon, if you remember, was he was kind of like a leader in the army, and one of the key characters here that he had good ideas. He was a good leader. So he came to the king and says, "I'd like to talk to you, king, because I have an idea I'd like to float by you." All right, and so I guess the idea of approaching the king, you got to get the king's attention. So that's why he's saying here, if you've not found me to be an unprofitable servant, in other words, if you feel that I've done any good in what I've done before, if you feel like I have good ideas, if you feel like I have credibility, those would be all, I guess, ways of saying the same thing, right? And I've told you things before and you listened and it worked out. So in other words, you're trying to get him to buy into the plan he's going to present here, right? And so again, you think about that, if you were going to go up to the king or or the president of the company or whatever it is, and you wanted to present some kind of an idea. I mean, why should he listen to you, right? So you got to have some reason that he would listen to you, some credibility, because you can point out, look, I did all these things before and they worked out, and so so really you should listen to what I have to say, because otherwise it's just a random thought or random idea. And so the leader usually gets lots of random ideas and bounces them all away. But so that's really what he's trying to propose here, that he would listen to the plan he has, because he's got a little bit of an off-the-wall plan that he wants the king to consider. Okay, so at the end of 4 it says, I desire you to listen to my words, and I'll be thy servant and deliver this people out of bondage. Okay, so I have a plan to get the people out of bondage, and I'd like to present it to you today. So I'm looking for your time to listen to my plan. Okay.
And the king granted unto him that he might speak. And Gideon said unto him, Behold, the back pass through the back wall on the back side of the city. The Lamanites, or the guards of the Lamanites, by night are drunken. Therefore, let us send a proclamation among all this people, that they gather together their flocks and herds, that they may drive them into the wilderness by night. And I will go according to thy command, and pay the last tribute of wine to the Lamanites, and they will be drunken, and we will pass through the secret pass on the left of the camp, when they are drunken and asleep. Thus we will depart with our women and our children, our flocks and our herds, into the wilderness, and we will travel around the land of Shilom.
That's the plan. It says, hey, every night they get drunk and pass out, so why don't we take advantage of that? right? In fact, it says, in 7, it says, I'll go and pay the last tribute of wine to the Lamanites. I'll bring them, I'll even bring them more, okay? We'll make sure that they're drunk and that they pass out and that they're fast asleep. And then that'll give us the chance to get away, all right? And when I was reading verse 6, I thought this was the back plan. See, it's the back pass on the back wall on the back side of the city, okay? But he was familiar with the city, so he was familiar with the way to get out in the most inconspicuous way possible. And then says, hey, these guys are passed out drunk, so they're not going to hear us if we go. So while they're fast asleep, we can take over the men, women, and children, the flocks, and so forth, and we can head out into the wilderness. We can go out through the back wall of the city while they're asleep at the front wall. Okay, so that's the plan.
And it came to pass that the king hearkened unto the words of Gideon. And King Limhi caused that his people should gather their flocks together, and he sent the tribute of wine to the Lamanites, and he also sent more wine as a present unto them. And they did drink freely of the wine which King Limhi did send unto them. And it came to pass that the people of King Limhi did depart by night into the wilderness with their flocks and their herds, and they went round about the land of Shilom in the wilderness, and bent their course towards the land of Zarahemla, being led by Ammon and his brethren. And they had taken all their gold and silver and their precious things which they could carry, and also their provisions with them into the wilderness, and they pursued their journey.
So the king liked the plan. Okay, it says in verse 9, it says the king hearkened unto the words of Gideon, so he liked the plan, and even threw some more wine on top of what they normally got. Right, and see, if you notice, it says that it refers to a tribute of wine that was expected every night, right? I guess that was part of the deal, part of the arrangement was you bring us this much wine every night. So they brought the normal amount. This is now the king threw a gift on top of that. It says, here, have some more on me. Okay, they should have been suspicious, all right? Why really should have been suspicious. Why is he giving us wine here? And so he gave him some extra, and they freely drank it all down. Okay, as it says in verse 9, they drank it all down, and so they were passed out, just as the plan was, and so then the people were able to escape from the city. I mean, think about the story and about the plan and being in place, and that's been kind of an exciting day, because it says that they had all their stuff ready to go. It says they have their flocks, they have their gold, silver, precious things, whatever they could carry, right? So they must have been all packing in their houses during the day, just waiting. I can imagine them going, pack your stuff, we're leaving tonight, and so they pack all their stuff, and so as soon as the guards are passed out, okay, let's go, and they headed out the back wall of the city with all their stuff. So imagine the guards waking up the next morning, right, and going around, and nobody's left, right, and the place has been cleared out, and everybody's gone. Right? It says that they had a destination in mind, right, and that destination was where? Okay, which happens to be over here. See, that was the place that the zenith originally came from, right? So of course it was zenith to know with the Limhi. So some years have passed, but this was like the home city that they all came from originally, or at least their parents or grandparents. So they're trying to make their way back to here now to be reunited with King Mosiah and the people there, right? So that's where they're headed, was to Zarahemla. At the end of verse 12, it says they also took their provisions, the food and water. Okay, it's basically what you need to exist on. What'd you say?
To survive.
Right, to survive, exactly, right? So that's what it is, it's provision. So that word's used a few times in the book here, the provisions.
And after being many days in the wilderness, they arrived in the land of Zarahemla, and joined Mosiah's people, and became his subjects. And it came to pass that Mosiah received them with joy, and he also received their records, and also the records which had been found by the people of Limhi. And now it came to pass, when the Lamanites had found that the people of Limhi had departed out of the land by night, that they sent an army into the wilderness to pursue them. And after they had pursued them 2 days, they could no longer follow their tracks. Therefore they were lost in the wilderness.
They did travel towards Zarahemla, and they did arrive there, right? So now this group of people has come over to here, right? And so now it says that they arrived in verse 13, that they arrived in the land of Zarahemla, and they joined Mosiah's people and became his subjects. So they were now part of the kingdom of King Mosiah here in Zarahemla, right? And so it says that he, of course, the king was happy to see them and received their records. Now, it refers to two different records here in verse 14. It says he also received their records and also the records which had been found by the people of Limhi. Okay, I want to make sure we understand which are which. The record of the people of Limhi is about the last 10 chapters we've been reading. Okay, all right. So this was from the record that Limhi and his people kept. That's how we know their story, right? Because they kept their own record. So that was their record, and so it got kind of merged into the big record here, and that's how it came to be in the book. Now the record that they found was what?
The gold plates?
The gold plates, right. The gold plates, what they found, right? And they found them in the land that had just dry bones left, that people had been dead for years, and they found the gold plates there, which was the record of those people who had died years ago. And we said last week what where that record appears now. And who remembers?
Book of Ether.
It's called the Book of Ether, and it's in the back of this book. Okay, it's the next to last book of the Book of Mormon is the Book of Ether, which is the record that was transcribed from those gold plates that the people of Limhi found. Okay, so those are the two records that they turned over to Mosiah, and it's good to know that they did that, because Mosiah was the keeper at this time of the big record, the plates of Nephi that were passed down from the beginning, from when Lehi and his family first came. They're passed down from father to son and so forth, then eventually passed over to King Benjamin. King Benjamin gave it to his son, which is Mosiah. So Mosiah is the keeper of the big record now. So by him receiving the record of Limhi, he's able to put it with the rest of the records, and also the record of the gold plates. Now in 15 or 16, you get just a little glimpse of what happened when they realized they were gone. Right? It doesn't say what happened to the guards necessarily, but it says when they realized they were gone, of course they went after them. Right? But they were trying to travel through the wilderness, so after a couple of days they realized that the trail was cold and then they weren't going to find them. Okay, so they gave up after a couple of days. They weren't able to find them, which, see again, I mean, I don't know how many people were involved, but they must have moved at a pretty good pace, right? Because they didn't have that much of a head start. Because by the next morning they would have realized that they were gone, so they didn't have too much of a head start, but they managed to all make their way to the land of Zarahemla without being apprehended. Now, so you can see by the line on the page here, right, that's the end of the record of Limhi, right, which is now merged into the whole book here.